I just want to take you back to 1996. And I want you to remember the name Maria Farmer. Because back in 1996, nearly a decade before Jeffrey Epstein was first arrested, Maria Farmer filed a complaint against a convicted sex trafficker, Jeffrey Epstein, and she was failed. She was let down. She was the first person to ever shed any light into Jeffrey Epstein's disgusting and horrific sex trafficking ring. And she was failed because law enforcement did not take her seriously back in 1996. And so the only good thing to come out of this DOJ drop, or at least one of the good things, is that now she feels validated, which is actually really sad that she has to feel validated by her own horrific experience. Is disgusting. And that is literally this DOJ, this presidency. They are all a bunch of disgusting pedophile sympathizers. And so for Maria Farmer, who, by the way, she has been requesting her FBI file for years now, okay? She now feels validated that she was right all these years because the DOJ, the FBI, and even government officials before the Trump administration failed her. Law enforcement failed her. People have been failing Maria Farmer since 1996 and possibly before then, whenever the horrific act against her took place. And it is just really vile how this administration has handled the last couple of days with releasing the Epstein files. And let's just jump right into it. So the DOJ were forced by law, they were obligated by law to release the Epstein files, the full Epstein files by December 19th. We've talked about this before on the podcast. And of course, the incompetent DOJ, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel. I always loop Kash Patel in it because he said there was no credible evidence that Epstein trafficked women, by the way. So he's screwed. And I can't stand his ass. But anyways, going back to the point, they missed the deadline. The deputy DOJ, I can't remember his name, but the guy under Pam Bondi went on Fox News early morning December 19th and basically said that only a couple hundred thousand of the Epstein files will be released today. There's a lot to go through and they're still redacting. Keep in mind, remember we reported months ago that they had this factory in Virginia where they had like 1,000 people going through the files to get Donald Trump's name out of it? And probably others, actually not probably, and others, his best friends, his pack of goons that we'll go over later. Yeah, it's really, really bad. And I don't care, Donald J. Trump, you're guilty. You are absolutely guilty. I believe every single one of the victims, and you are a vile human being. And so let's continue. So by the way, it's a lie. There's not hundreds of thousands of pages. I don't think so. They're saying there's like tens of thousands. They're not hundreds of thousands. So there's lie number one. So amongst the thousands, of pages of documents and images released by the DOJ on Friday, and they also, just to know, on December 20th, they did a little drop as well of some files. They were mostly images, and they were mostly photos of prominent people ranging from political figures such as Bill Clinton and Peter Mandelson, who we already know was in the files, right? So Peter Mandelson, for context, he was the former UK ambassador to the United States. So, and the UK, Keir Starmer and his government already got rid of him. So he's already in shit. And so, but we already knew Bill Clinton was in it. However, the more pictures we see of Bill Clinton with Epstein, which is why I actually do want more photos to come out. I don't care if we already knew they're in the files. We've never seen these pictures before, and it once again solidifies how close Bill Clinton was to Epstein that he doesn't want to admit. And I think now it's time. Hillary Clinton, if you're listening to this, Bill Clinton, if you're listening to this, Chelsea Clinton, if you're listening to this, it is time. It is time for you to tell the truth. Hillary, it is time for you to get that plea deal and tell us what you know. Hell, even Chelsea Clinton, get that plea deal and tell us what you know. Time's up, because it's very clear that this administration is hiding Trump from the files, government officials, and more powerful world leaders. So we're not going to get it from them as of now. I just think now third parties such as the Clintons, such as Bill Gates, Melinda Gates, we need to remember a couple years ago that she basically admitted the reason why she divorced Bill Gates is because of his relationship with Epstein. And we're starting to realize that that relationship was really tight. They were really close. Just it's despicable. They are all a bunch of child predators. We need to start investigating the charities, the foundations. How are you smuggling these young girls through? Like, what are we doing here? I'm also like, I'm starting to think they started to use Trump's Mar-a-Lago, all his little real estate business to smuggle women. That's just allegedly my opinion. So yeah, Maria Farmer, you were right the whole time. We knew it. The ordinary individual person like myself and the people listening to this, we believed you. But the powerful men at the top gaslit her and all of they tried to at least, because she stuck to her convictions. Try to gaslight us into thinking she was a liar, but it didn't work because we're smarter than this shit. And I think it's to the point where if a powerful billionaire, anyone in power says they didn't do it, I'm not going to believe you off the bat. You know what I'm saying? They really think we're dumb. They really think we're just so stupid. Because to be fair, a lot of people voted for him, right? So he has this ego. But little does he know, the 2026 elections are going to be the elections of our lifetime. Everybody, I'm not even a Democrat anymore. I'm an independent. But we got to do what we got to do, unless they're APAC, of course. But you know what I'm saying? We got to do what we got to do. We got to get some people up in there, maybe more independents, because I'm sick and tired of it. But also, I will say, as an independent, watch out for the independents, because typically what I'm learning is people that say they're independent, they're still right-leaning. I'm an independent left-leaning, and there's actually not a lot of us, to be fair, because typically I think people vote with the Democrats if you're left, and that's what I do. It's what I've always done, and it's an embarrassment to me. But it's like if Bernie Sanders is there, you know what I mean? I'm going to vote Democrat. If Bernie's running as a Democrat, he's too old now. I'm just going into a rant, but you get it. Anywho, let's just go through these pictures because I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I don't know about y'all. Okay, so here's a disgusting one. Here's a photo of Epstein with 4 with girls kneeling on the ground. Could be women, could be girls, but I think girls also considered 18, 19. So I'm going to say girls. We got to start calling it how it is. You know what I'm saying? We keep saying he's trafficking women, which I believe he did also traffic women of age, but he trafficked children is what we're starting to see. And I'm reading Virginia Giuffre's book. I'm actually done. And I took away that it seemed like in her eyes, once they started getting towards 17, 18, they were aging out for them. Okay, so these people they sex trafficked children. They are children sex traffickers. I will say this for the rest of my life. I don't even care. Okay, so that's just absolutely vile. These people need to go to jail. I'm just going to go through these really quick. Like, I can't even look at these too much, It's just it makes your stomach drop, right? Like, it just makes your stomach drop. It's disgusting. There's this picture of Bill Clinton next to Ghislaine Maxwell, and then a photo in the background with a black box over it, which to me, they would say, you guys, we're going to redact the victims' faces from it. So whenever you see a black box, it could be a bystander, but most likely it could be a victim of survivor because they have counted over 1,200 victims. 1,200. I can't. This is just vile. So there's Bill Clinton, very, very chummy with Ghislaine Maxwell. Now, you have to keep in mind, Bill Clinton said he wasn't really close with them. Why are you up in a hot tub or a pool swimming next to a convicted sex offender? Because Ghislaine Maxwell, she's just as gross as the rest of them. She was like the pimp mom, you know what I mean? So she got the girls ready. I just want to say something that I've been kind of relating it to something that I've personally seen. I've been to Thailand before, and I was in Bangkok. I've been to Chiang Mai, Bangkok, and Phuket. And in the Bangkok part of our trip, we went down this street, which I think is very famous for like prostitution. It's very famous for sex work, etc., etc. And we turned down that street, and the first person I saw was the pimp woman. The woman, like the older woman who kind of pimps out all the ladies. And I remember seeing her, she would yell at these foreign men, these white men typically. And she'd be like, come here, like 5 baht, 5 baht, 5 baht. And they'd keep walking and she'd yell back, 2 baht, 2 baht. And I remember thinking, oh my God, she's like the pimp. She's pimping them out. And it never sat right with me. It never sat right with me. And so that's how I always think of Ghislaine Maxwell, as like the mom pimp. I don't know what else you would, yeah, pimp, right? Or like, what is that? Like the mother, like they had a word for it. I've heard over the years, like a mother of the night or something like that. But it's really vile. It's really vile. And keep in mind, she's working out and having puppy cuddles in not even a maximum prison. She's in a low security prison. It's insane to me. So then there's this photo of this old crusty looking man. No one knows who he is. If you guys know who it is, please put in the comments because I can't figure out who he is. But he's been photographed a couple times and he has a nasty ass beer belly and he's just vile. I don't even care. So if you guys know who it is, I'd be very curious. And then there's this really weird photo of Prince Andrew laying across women whose faces are blacked out. And then there's Ghislaine Maxwell in the background grinning. Keep in mind, Prince Andrew, former Prince Andrew, has always denied any wrongdoing. Do you remember that disastrous BBC 2019 freaking interview he did where he thought he was so privileged to go up there and be like, the women are wrong, blah, blah, blah. No, you're such an asshole. And now look at him. Yeah, so there's Prince Andrew. Ugh, he's so gross to me. The UK really need to do better than the US. You need to put him in jail. So that's Prince Andrew's disgusting ass. Look at him. Just like, and then there's Fergie, Sarah Ferguson. I've talked about her. Remember, she lost all of her charity titles because she denied any wrongdoing, any ties to Jeffrey Epstein. Well, there she is with a woman in a black box. They also released actually quite a few photos with celebrities and Epstein or Ghislaine Maxwell. For example, Chris Tucker. There was one with Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson and their kids, but it wasn't weird. So the bodyguard for Michael Jackson apparently came out and said that they were touring houses because Michael Jackson was going to buy a house in Florida. And I believe it was Jeffrey Epstein's. So they were just touring and then they snapped a photo because they were fans and then they left. So you do need to take stuff with a pinch of salt. Now, this one was really interesting because David Copperfield was the magician that Thomas Massey hinted at a few months ago that's mentioned in the files. Well, there he is with Ghislaine Maxwell, very cuddled up, very cuddled up. So this is what we're working with. Now, I want to just bring attention to one photo in particular. Now, the photo in particular is of Donald Trump. And as you know, the DOJ, Pam Bondi, and them are allegedly covering up Donald Trump's link to the Epstein and the files, which it makes him even more guilty in my eyes, your eyes, everybody's eyes. Well, they released a photo that they forgot to put a black box over Donald Trump's face. Now, as you can see here, okay, now I'm just going to quickly back up to give you a bit more context. Overnight, at least 16 files from the Jeffrey Epstein files have disappeared from the DOJ websites for documents related to the sex trafficker. So 16 files disappeared, which included a photograph showing Donald Trump, yes, President Donald Trump, surrounded by a couple women. Obviously it's gross, but again, Donald Trump did a lot of pageants, all of that. To me, the DOJ wiping this photo, as you can see, from the website doesn't look good and actually makes me question who is that actually in the photos with him or what they were doing that night. Because why would you scrap that photo from the internet? I don't know. Do you guys know? I would love to know. But one thing we do know is that Donald Trump isn't featured as much in the files as we thought. But also, it's not really adding up because do you remember the emails we got from the Epstein estate? Donald Trump was the number one person mentioned within 20,000 emails. So you're telling me with the tens of thousands or 100,000, whatever they want to say, that they released, Donald Trump was only mentioned a handful of times? Yeah, that's not going to work for me. And also, I want you guys to know what they released was 10% of the files. They're allegedly saying there's millions. There's over 5 million files related to Jeffrey Epstein and his sex trafficking ring. Yep. That's how long it went on. So the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee, they called out Pam Bondi and they're asking, is it true, as you can see from the tweet? So the House Oversight Committee, the Oversight Democrats, by the way, the Democrats, not the Republicans, they tweeted, as you can see, the tweet says, this photo, file 468 from the Epstein files that include Donald Trump has apparently now been removed from the DOJ release. At AG Pam Bondi, is this true? Question mark. What else has been covered up? Question mark. We need transparency for the American public. And I also just want to note there have been reports over the weekend that Thomas Massie, Representative Thomas Massie, and Representative Ro Khanna, who have been leading the Epstein case, they are working together to draft articles of impeachment towards Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi and the DOJ have just handled this horrific. And so I just want to quickly talk about the heavy redactions. So out of all of the information, out of all of the thousands of documents, at least 550 pages are fully redacted according to CBS. 550 pages are fully redacted. So there's a difference between a little bit of redaction and fully redaction. No, there are full black pages. At one point, there was like a grand jury testimony people are trying to look for. The whole grand jury testimony of 100 plus pages are just, it's black. So, and then of course we have like the redactions just throughout, which could be full sentences, paragraphs, etc. So it's more than 550 pages is what I'm trying to say. But in terms of absolutely no context on the page other than maybe like the file name, 550 pages. And you all know we've only seen 10% of the files. That's where we're at. And so the redactions didn't sit right with the public, whether you're left, right, MAGA, whoever. This, I think, is going to really just ruin the Republican Party completely. Because I also think we're starting to lose the blur line between a Republican and MAGA when it comes to Epstein. And to me, that doesn't sit right because you're protecting a child predators. I'm confused. I'm really confused. Why is this even a thing? I can't believe we're having to fight child predators. The fuck? So and of course with all the heavy redactions, there are a few mentions of Trump, which tells me it is really bad. It is really bad, and it tells me that President Donald J. Trump is throughout the files, period. Like, I'm sure he is the number one within the whole Epstein debacle, because the New York Times did a whole report on the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein and Donald Trump, and it was competitive. They had a competitive nature about them, but they were really close. So they would fight like about the girls, about the underage girls. It's crazy. Do you remember when Trump said he took the women from me? He stole the women from me. I believe, in my personal opinion, and it's not obviously proven, this is just my personal opinion. I think Donald J. Trump used Mar-a-Lago to recruit the girls and help funnel them through Jeffrey Epstein's estate. And then it goes from there. Because why would you say he stole the girls from me? That's just one of my theories. Yeah, I just have some weird theories about it. So, and the fact that the Department of Justice, the DOJ, Pam Bondi missed the deadline, it doesn't matter. There's no excuse, because they actually started redacting Trump's name and going through the files back in what? Like June, right? It's just so crazy. So the DOJ said it will continue to update the redactions of the material. It will just they will keep releasing until it's all out there. By the way, it will take a long time. I didn't realize there were millions and millions and millions, and they've only released 10 to 15%. And it's December 21st. Okay, wait, breaking news. Just as I was about to wrap up this podcast, Todd Blanche, that's the Deputy Attorney General under Pam Bondi, who's in a lot of trouble, by the way, a lot of trouble. Well, he said today, literally 10 minutes ago, that the White House has said President Trump is included in the files. So Todd Blanche went on NBC News this morning, Meet the Press, and they talked about Epstein and President Trump's links to Epstein. And NBC News' Christian Walker asked Blanche this question. And NBC News asked Blanche this question. The White House has said that President Trump is included in the files. Can you guarantee that every mention and every photo of President Trump in the Epstein files will be released? Todd Blanche replies and says, Yes, yes, I've said it 3, 4 times now. We've said it before, and President Trump has said it repeatedly since before he was elected. And since he was elected, all summer long, he has said the same thing. I have nothing to hide. And so, of course, that's the case. But let me just make sure everybody understands something. To the extent that he is, quote, in the Epstein files, it is not because he had anything to do with the horrific crimes, full stop. But yes, if President Trump is mentioned, if there's photographs that we have of President Trump or anybody else, they of course will be released, with the exception of any victims and survivors that we've identified. He's a liar. He's such a liar. This whole administration, listen, okay, we need to hold our elective officials that we are going to elect into a power to accountable when it comes to this Epstein stuff. I want to see Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, Donald Trump, did Todd Blanche guy, everybody, Dan Bongino. I know you retired, but you were aware, you're complicit. The mouthpiece, Caroline Leavitt, all of them, J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Mike Johnson, everyone that said it was Democratic host, I want to see them all on trial next year and in jail. No less than 20 years to life, in my opinion. And the people that actually participated, and that's just for the cover up, the people that not only cover up but participated, life sentence. Life sentence. In Alligator Alcatraz. Thank you, Kristi Noem. You actually created our prison for these pedophiles. All of them are going to go there. You reap what you sowed. Y'all built this. You're going to go live in it. That's where I want my taxpayer money to go. That's exactly what I want them to do. I want them to snatch them all up, put them in Alligator Alcatraz, and be done with it. And I want us to be able to tour the facility too. And I want us to be able to throw things at them like oranges, like fruit and stuff, like monkeys that are trapped in there because they are just a bunch of vile human beings. All right. We'll be back later because this Epstein stuff isn't going away and we're not going to stop talking about it and we're going to wait for the next batch. But once again, it's all been redacted. They are covering it up and everyone's going to jail. Bye.